Jeremy Birmingham from LettermanRow.com joins us now. And Berm, it's Rutgers week, which doesn't mean a whole lot. Ohio State has never lost to Rutgers. Ohio State has never had a competitive game against Rutgers, and it's not going to change this weekend in Piscataway.
Yeah, I think the combined score in the last 5 years is 259-27 or something ridiculous. It's an opportunity for Ohio State to make sure that the depth gets some work again, as they did in the entire second half against Maryland, and an opportunity to just work on the few things that need to be cleaned up. Ryan Day talked about it on Tuesday, 12 penalties against the Terrapins. Little things like that, little issues where you're just trying to make sure you're playing clean football. That's really the focus for Ohio State this week. There is not much of a concern, I don't think, about accidentally tripping up against the Scarlet Knights.
You mentioned the depth getting a little bit of a workout. Now, one of the things that's kind of been bandied about a little bit is, could Ohio State score 100 points against Rutgers? Your colleague at LettermanRow.com, Austin Ward, talked about that. And one factor about that is the fact that this is a road game. Ohio State will not have the full complement of roster. They can't take everybody on the road game. So the second stringers are going to see a lot of time in the fourth quarter, presumably.
Yeah, you're not going to see the 90th player on the roster, the walk-ons and that kind of stuff getting the work. You can only travel 74 guys. That's 11 fewer than your full scholarship complement. So, what I would expect for Ohio State is to see that backup group play for almost, you should expect them to play the entire second half and maybe even three quarters, depending on what type of lead the Buckeyes can establish in the first quarter. You just never know what happens, but obviously I think the goal for Ohio State is to get Justin Fields and the starters some work and then get them out of there as soon as possible.
Now, not only is this not a good Rutgers team, it's not been a good season for Rutgers. They let go of Chris Ash, the former Ohio State defensive coordinator, following the loss to Michigan. Their new head coach is Nunzio Campanelli, who just a few years ago was a high school coach. And when asked about Ohio State earlier this week, Nunzio, without batting an eye, said there are no weaknesses, and he wasn't short about that. He basically was saying that in awe of this Ohio State team.
Yeah, he's a guy that obviously is watching a team every single week that is full of weaknesses, and so you sort of see the contrast between what Ohio State is bringing to the battle and what Scarlet Knights of Rutgers are. And for Rutgers, this is a big week. I don't know, maybe they're going to make an announcement this week. There's been some talk that the hiring of Greg Schiano is almost complete there, so maybe it's a chance for them to get some sort of emotional boost heading into the weekend, but I don't think that anybody on either side of this field on Saturday is under the pretense that this is a fair fight.
And Nunzio actually did coach Jean Baptiste for Ohio State, and he's known a couple of the other Ohio State guys as well. There are actually plenty of connections between the two programs, not only the residue of what Chris Ash built at Rutgers, but also you got Chris Chuganoff from New Jersey and some other guys as well.
You have Jordan Fuller, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, as you mentioned, of course, and then you have some younger guys like Ronnie Hickman and, as you mentioned, Chris Chuganoff, who will play a lot on Saturday.
And Jonah Jackson, who a year ago was a captain for Rutgers, and he has come into Ohio State and really solidified the offensive line.
Yeah, it's one of those things we talked about in the spring, which was we don't really know what this Buckeye offensive line is going to look like because there were four guys who were expected to be contributors and starters that weren't really playing in the spring ball. So Jonah Jackson being one of them, and he's a guy that come into Ohio State and has fit right in. And you could tell from listening to Josh Myers and Kevin Wilson and the guys on this that we talked with at the Ohio State press conference on Tuesday, they really, really respect him.
Let's talk about Kevin Wilson, because what we saw today was that Kevin Wilson was really turning some phrases for us.
I don't think I've ever heard him so calm, which is pretty interesting to see, but maybe he got a good night's rest or something yesterday, but he certainly seems like a guy that's comfortable and confident in what the Buckeyes have, and for good reason. They're the best team in the country, but he's able to see some areas I think that they need a little motivation, a little help, and you can see that he's really sort of enjoying himself in the coaching opportunities they have with this football team.
Now, one thing we do need to address as we're taping this, still no update on Chase Young. We don't know what his status is going forward. And when we talked to Ryan Day shortly after noon, the one thing Coach Day did say is he's still going to practice. We're going to prepare to have him back. Didn't specify when he will be back in their minds, but in their minds, Chase Young will return to the field at some point this season.
Yeah, if Chase is back this week for Rutgers or next week for Penn State or 2 weeks from now for Michigan, the Buckeyes are going to need him to be practicing anyway. So I don't think that you should read too much into the fact that he's practicing. It is just a simple matter of making sure that your best player is practicing. That said, there is cautious optimism that this weekend against Rutgers could be the final game that he misses. But as Ryan Day said, there's not really much that can be said, and nor should be said until there's a definitive answer, because otherwise all this random and reckless speculation isn't helping anybody.
All right, that's going to do it for us tonight here on College Football Weekly with Jeremy Birmingham from LettermanRow.com. Berm, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.